Hey class, so this video is going to go over essay 1 for Professor Nadelson's class. So, essay 1, you are going to be talking about the best thing you have ever read or written. And so in this presentation, I'm basically just going to go over, uh, 1, where do you get started, how do you organize your essay, and different strategies to go about writing it. So that's why it's called the basics of an essay. So it's going to help give you the groundwork to even write it. Um, so first things first, you do not always have to write an essay like this. So you can take some strategies from this presentation and use it or don't use it. Uh, just do what works best for you. Um, Writing is always going to be a unique experience, and it's always different for everyone else. Everyone's going to produce something different, so you definitely don't need to be like cookie cutter about it and like follow a strict formula, but it is good to have some sort of structure, which I will provide in this PowerPoint presentation or Google Slides, whatever. And yeah. So, where do you start? So, well, one, you want to, of course, read the assignment and understand what it's asking for. So, essay 1 is asking for what is the best thing you've read or written, basically, and that is the prompt of the essay. So, just think in your head, like, what your answer is to that. Like, what is the best thing you've read or written? Let's say you want to pick a movie. You can pick a movie for sure. You can pick a song. You can pick a poem. Um, any kind of art like that, you can choose as the best thing you've read or written. Of course, it can be a book, an article, even a post on like Twitter or something that you've read can be the best thing you've read or written, but you just need to think why and you need to explain why. So, whatever your answer is to that question of what is the best thing you've ever read or written, that is basically what you want to write about for your whole essay. So, once you get an idea, you can start from there. And point 2, I talk about outlines, which I'll go over how to do them, but outlines is basically a roadmap to writing your essay. And I recommend this or some sort of planning before you even get into your essay, because if we pull up a Google Doc or a Word doc and we just look at the blank paper, it's going to be really hard to start it because we don't know what to say first. We could say so many things. We have so many ideas in our head, but where do we start, right? So having an outline is a good way to pre-plan your paper before you even write it. So once you get like your introduction done, you know the next part that you're going to write out. Once you get that paragraph done, you know the next part that you're going to write. So you basically plan it so that you always know what you're going to be at least like the gist of what you're going to be writing from each paragraph to paragraph. And number 3, confidence. So confidence is important because oftentimes I see students, and I've even, I'm as a fellow student, I do this too, where we doubt ourselves. So whatever idea you have, don't be afraid to just express yourself, or let's say it's like because essay 3, eventually you're going to be talking about an issue in the world that you're going to be researching the issue and researching a solution for essay 3, right? Don't be afraid to be passionate about it. Like, choose an issue that is personal to you or something that you really care about, right? Like, don't be afraid, because sometimes I see students not want to do something that's like a bit personal, even if it's just a little bit, because they get scared of kind of being a bit vulnerable, I guess, you know? Same thing here. Some people are scared to even like, because this paper is a bit more personal. It's your opinion. It's something personal. Like, why do you like it? You know, there's no wrong answer. But sometimes students get scared to even like share a little bit about themselves. Or I've had one student who really just like would try not to say anything, in his words, quote unquote, corny. You know, he he just didn't want to write anything personal because I guess he thought it was corny. He felt embarrassed. You know. Um, Which, if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to. Like, you aren't going to be forced to write something that you don't want to, but I just recommend just opening yourself up to being creative and just be confident with whatever you want to write about, because you don't want to hold yourself back, basically. And it's also just a much more enjoyable process if you do that, because you don't want to write about something you don't even like or want to write about just because you are, you know, I don't know if scared's the right word, but you just are apprehensive about writing about something more personal. So Sorry to go on a tangent, but what I'm saying is basically is don't be afraid to just write about what you want to write about and be confident, basically. So once you figure out what you want to write about, um, you want to formulate your thesis. So step one was your thesis. Your answer to the assignment's question / prompt is your thesis. So the question is, what is the best thing you've ever read or written? Your answer to that is basically your thesis. So if someone said, the best thing I've read or watched in this case is the movie Shrek, then that is your thesis. Or at least part of your thesis. You want to argue why that was the best thing you've ever watched Shrek. So it could be you want to type out a sentence or write out a sentence saying the best thing I ever read or written was blank because of, and like list out some reasons in your sentence. That alone, right there, that sentence alone is your thesis, right? That is the whole thing that you are arguing and supporting throughout your paper. So it could be like, Shrek is the best thing I've ever watched because it's funny, it's heartfelt, and it's relaxing. I don't know. Whatever reasons, you know? When you first formulate your thesis, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be concrete. Like, you can workshop it throughout your whole entire process of writing it. Last point, I say can be creative with it, but depending on the class, it might be restrictive. So what I mean by that is, I would say English classes tend to be where you can really, like, write out an intro paragraph and thesis. Some classes, like a history class, some of them don't even want an intro paragraph, they just want your thesis. Or sometimes that's like a science class or something. It really depends on the professor and what they want and what they're looking for. So just be sure to read the assignment and like what they're looking for, because it's not always going to be the same thing. Okay, so here I go over how to do an outline. So I did like a different example where the prompt is, what is your favorite food? So let's pretend there's an assignment that's asking you to write an essay about what your favorite food is. And my made up thesis is, my favorite food is rice because it is versatile, affordable, and easy to make. So that's my thesis sentence, and that sentence is going to go more than likely at the end of my intro paragraph. So keep that in mind, that's where you probably want to locate your thesis. And I bolded versatile, affordable, and easy to make because you can use each reason as a paragraph. So one paragraph you're going to focus on versatile, the second paragraph you're going to focus on affordability, and the third paragraph you focus on how it's easy to make. So intro paragraph, I just put my favorite food is rice because it's versatile, affordable, and easy to make, because the thesis goes in the intro. And I don't really type out any long sentences or a paragraph. Your outline is just meant to be the bare bones. You're not really writing out an entire paragraph. You just want to write about, or your points should just be about the main things that you want to hit in that paragraph, the main reasonings and arguments you want to hit. So keep it brief, because you're not writing your essay here, you're just writing like your roadmap, basically. So body paragraph 1, I'm arguing that rice is versatile. So I include different reasonings and arguments I could put in this paragraph. So it is used in many cuisines around the world. There's different varieties and types of rice, and include examples of different dishes you can make with rice. So that is me giving points I want to hit in my paragraph without really writing out the paragraph itself. And then body paragraph 2, rice is affordable. So then I talk about how you can buy a sack of rice, it can last a while, get your money's worth by making countless dishes with just one product. Body paragraph 3, rice is easy to make, whether it's in a pan or a rice cooker. Cooking rice isn't complicated, can make a lot in a short amount of time. Conclusion paragraph, summarize key points, leave a lasting impact, which I'll get into details later about, writing a conclusion and an intro and all that. But basically an outline is just putting down your main points that you want to hit in your paper without really writing a whole paragraph. It's just so as you actually put it on paper and get into the essay writing, you know which points you want to hit and talk about in your paper. So this is an example of a map, right? so that you know what you're going to be writing and what you want to say in your paper. I have a note right here that says prioritize body paragraphs first. So I put that there because oftentimes students get really struck with just the intro paragraph. The intro and conclusion I would not worry about too much because the most important parts of your essay are the body paragraphs because that's where your argument is happening. So if you get stuck in the intro because you don't know what to say, I would just have at least your thesis because you need at least your argument, like what you're going to be talking about in your paper first to even write the paper. So as long as you have a thesis, and if you have a hard time working with the intro, as long as you have the thesis, just keep writing the body paragraphs. That's like the meat and potatoes of your essay. You don't want to get stuck on one part for too long. And yeah, I understand that some students want to be chronological when they write their paper and go in order. But if you get stuck at the intro, which is the very first thing, it's kind of like you're hindering your writing process because you can't move on and like write the more important parts. So if you're having trouble, just write the body paragraphs. So tips on intro paragraphs. Thesis does not need to be at the end of the intro paragraph, but I recommend for English 1S to do so, and other classes may prefer that. For Professor Nadelson's class, yes, put the thesis at the end of the intro paragraph. It's just easy to find. And it's also just good to do when you're taking an intro or English 1 class. You don't want to overcomplicate things. But some classes, technically, a thesis can be a whole paragraph, technically. But in this class, just to keep it simple, it's one sentence at the end of the intro paragraph. So this triangle is kind of like showing off, this is where you start, this is where you end. You want to start vague, get on topic, give context before jumping right into your thesis. So by starting vague, yet on topic, you could use, this may be cliche, but you can use the phrase throughout history to start off your first sentence of your intro paragraph. So, and I'll show you how to do that in the next slide, but the reason why you want to start off a bit vague is because you don't want to just dive right into your argument, like, I believe this, right? You kind of think about when, like, you know, there's a pool, you test out the water, you like dip your foot in it or whatever, like you're seeing the temperature, you don't want to dive right into it because it's overwhelming, right? You don't want to just lead into your thesis, you want to ease the reader into your topic, right? So, but you of course want your intro to be on topic with what you're even talking about, and then you get more specific. So I'll show you what I did with my own paper I did a few years ago. Honestly, I don't even like my own paper, which is why I recommend writing about something that you actually like, and make it more enjoyable, and when you look back at it, you are like actually proud of it, basically. But anyways, this is an example intro. There are millions of books, plays, poems, and many other forms of text to choose from and read, but not all is what one would deem good writing. Essentially, anyone can enjoy any genre or any specific text, but that does not mean it is good and purposeful. Text without a deeper meaning or underlying message are unavailing. Any truly good writing is a piece of work that challenges the reader, makes them think, reflect, and learn. Therefore, No Exit by philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre is the best work I have read, and in correlation, my analysis essay of the existentialist play is the best thing I have written. So to be honest, I just read about this play because it was like the most recent thing I read. Which, you know, if that's what you're doing too, there's no shame in that. Like, you're doing what's easy for you to write about because you just read it. But again, I encourage you to write about something you actually enjoy, to be honest. It'll just make it a more enjoyable process. But anyways, so the sentence, there are millions of books, plays, poems, and many other forms of text to choose and read from, but not all is what one would deem good writing. So on topic with, because I wrote this for essay 1, you know, what is the best thing you've ever read or written? So I start off on topic with the idea of, you know, what is good writing? I say not all is what one would deem good writing. So I'm giving myself a way to transition into my topic, right? And I'm kind of getting more specific by giving my opinion, like text without a deeper meaning or underlying message or unavailing. And then I lead in with my thesis. Therefore, you know, I'm starting off pretty vague. I'm not starting off saying No Exit by Jean-Paul Sartre is the best thing I've read, right? I'm not starting off right off the bat like that. I'm starting off vague and kind of giving like a historical. It's not like super historical, but what I mean by historical is like you mentioned the past, or you mentioned there are millions of blank, right? So if I use the what is your favorite food prompt as an example, your first sentence could be there are millions of cuisines and foods around the world, and so it is hard to choose what is the best food to eat. However, I think there is one food that is undeniably the best food found, which that is found in all cuisines or whatever. And then I lead into I think rice is the best food in the world because, or my favorite food because it is valuable, or what I say, versatile, affordable, and easy to make, right? So that's what I mean by historical context. You mention like the general thing. What is your favorite food? Talk about foods, but then hone in on rice. What is the best thing you've ever written? Talk about in general, books or whatever, but then hone in on your specific book that you want to talk about. I hope that makes sense, or this example gives you a better idea, because I'm being really wordy right now, and I hope I'm explaining it well. But yeah. As for your body paragraph, I just found this like triangle, Many students have probably seen this in your past English classes from like high school, but basically, state the claim, you have a topic sentence. So if I'm going back to this, the bolded parts like rice is versatile could be part of your first sentence, your topic sentence. So the topic sentence could be like, rice is my favorite food because it is versatile. That is your topic sentence, right? You are stating the main idea of your paragraph. Like, rice is my favorite food because it is versatile, right? That's the main thing that you're arguing, and you only talk about that in that paragraph. Don't talk about how rice is affordable. You only talk about how it's versatile in that paragraph. Supporting evidence. For essay 1, because it's not like you're doing a research paper, your evidence is just your explanation, your reasoning as to why you liked the book you read or the movie you watched or whatever it is you're writing about. So let's say your favorite thing you ever watched is Shrek because you thought it was funny. You then want to use an example of like a funny scene or like the humor in the movie, and you want to go into detail about it. You don't need to write about the whole movie, just pick a specific example and you write about that. That is your evidence for this paper, because it's not like you're doing a research paper where you find a source and you quote it, right? So your evidence is just your reasoning and an example from the source, or from the book or the movie or whatever it is you're writing about. And then the last sentence or two of the body paragraph, conclusion, where you summarize the main points and link to the next paragraph. So basically, I will show an example of this because I feel like I can show it more than I can explain it. I also leave a note here. Think of your entire essay as one big thread. The whole purpose of your paragraphs are to support your thesis/argument. So what I mean by that is, you're building off each paragraph, and it's all meant to support the same thing, your argument. If you want to know if your paragraphs are like cohesive, I recommend reading the first and last sentence of each paragraph and see like when you jump from one paragraph to the next, does it all kind of make sense? Is it all related? And make sure that you're on topic. So here's a body paragraph. I'll be honest, this is really long to read. I'm not gonna read all this. You can pause it and read if you want, but I'm just gonna go over the main thing I want to go over. So I'm talking about supporting evidence, right? Is an example from the text and the conclusion. So let's see. I say, in starts no exit, the reader can finish and leave the text with a profound thought or lesson. So I'm arguing that this is a good piece of writing. It's the best thing I've read because it leaves you with a lesson, right? So I explain it leaves you with a lesson by explaining the play itself, and let's see, let me just skip ahead. The complex text then leaves, the complex text, anyways. The complex text then leaves the reader to contemplate the claim of how hell is other people. They reflect on Sartre's message of how seeking approval from others is a never-ending hell because you will not get what you want and you must restrict your subjectivity and freedom to appease others. Very wordy sentence, but basically, I give examples, like in this whole chunk right here that I'm not going to read, I give examples from the play, and then my conclusion is I tie it all back to my thesis. I tie it all back to how the example I'm showing is leaving the reader with a profound thought or lesson, like I said in my topic sentence. So I tie it all back in the end, and then my last sentence is this message and how it is delivered is what ultimately makes for a good piece of work for the reader and is brought to complex thought and leaves with a sense of profundity. So that's what I mean by giving examples from the text to support your topic sentence. And then your conclusion is you want to tie it all up together and tie it back to your thesis, which is what I do here. So make sure you kind of do something like this in your own paper for each body paragraph and tie it back to your reasoning. So, and do that for every body paragraph, of course. This is for your conclusion, so it's not just summarizing your points. I know from high school, oftentimes people just say the conclusion is just restating everything you just said, basically. That's partially true. You do kind of want to sum up your main points in the conclusion, but you also want to try and like it says, leave a lasting impact. You can ask a question. You know, you want to like think like think outside the box. I know that sounds vague, but a good example is like an essay 3 when you research a problem and a solution. Let's say you're researching like climate change or something. And the conclusion, you can just be like, this is a huge problem. What's next for our future? Are our governments going to do something about it, right? Like you're leaving with a question and lasting impact in your conclusion so that it's not just you restating everything you said. So that's what I mean by leave a lasting impact or ask a question. You can read this. This was my very short conclusion in my paper. It's not the best, but yeah. Some other tips as you write your essay 1. This is not just for essay 1, but for any essay you write. Read it out loud. I think reading out your paper will help let you know if something makes sense. Oftentimes, when me and the professor read papers and we tell the student like, oh, this seems a bit wordy, or this seems like the sentence doesn't make sense here, students, you know, when they read it again, they're like, oh yeah, that, you know, that doesn't sound right. Like in our heads when we type it out, we think we're like typing everything that our brain is thinking, but maybe like because we think faster than we can type, it probably doesn't come out the way you want it to. So read it out loud or have someone else read it to like give you their opinion if it makes sense. So of course, me or the professor can read it for you. And another tip, stay on topic. So again, like I said, each paragraph should focus on just one main thing. And you don't want to go off course and like start talking about a different topic. That could be a separate paragraph. Oftentimes students will have like a paragraph that's like a page long, and that could have been split up into like 2 or 3 paragraphs. It's because they're going on like a whole like talking about this and talking about that and then talking about this, like it's like pinball or something, and it's really hard to follow. So that's what I mean by stay on topic. You can like, it's okay if you do end up writing a big long paragraph, you know, like the next point says, there will be many revisions and draft. Writing is a process. So if you end up doing that, it's not the end of the world. It's totally okay. I think all of us have like done that before with a paper where we write a big paragraph and it's like, oh, I could just split this up into different paragraphs. So if you do that, it's okay. You just want to split it up and organize it well. Next tip is don't procrastinate. I think we all have done this. It's understandable, but for essays, especially essay 3, because it is a research paper that's going to be a bit longer than essay 1 and 2, you don't want to do this like the night before it's due. Just do baby steps every day where like maybe write a little bit here and there. You definitely don't need to like knock it out. or you don't want to procrastinate to the point where you got to knock it out in one night. Definitely try to be consistent with working on it. And of course, me and the professor are here to help you guys out. The last point I kind of already mentioned, like read the first and last sentence of each paragraph. I personally do that because it helps me know if like all my paragraphs are connected and building off each other and just are cohesive and organized. Yeah. So that is the end of my very long-winded presentation. The tips in here that I mentioned, like the outlines and like other things, can be used for pretty much any essay. I hope everything I've said in this video has made sense. I know I'm not like the best at explaining things, so honestly, like you can just mute the video or pause and just read the slides if you want, if that's more helpful than my rambling. You can of course ask me, the professor, for any questions or help on your paper. You are not alone in the writing process, so definitely don't be afraid to ask questions, and I wish you all the best of luck.